My name is Ian Davis from Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures. I just recently returned from Bolivia where I was fishing for golden Dorado, and wonderful species, tons of fun, but really hard on flies. In fact, this is just after one fish. Okay, so that fly is pretty much disintegrated. They have a lot of teeth and they chew through just about any material. So not only do you need a lot of flies, but you need to tie them quickly so you're not wasting too much time tying a fly that could only be worth one fish. So I prefer really strong hooks. I like to use the Gamakatsu. These are the Octopus 4X strong hooks. They're great. I did buy some more reasonably priced hooks and they did break. I lost probably my biggest fish of the trip due to the hook just snapping. So we're going to start with a thread base. As we do with any fly, using black Kevlar thread, as black is the most common color throughout my fly, and that's typically how I choose my thread. I'm going to tie in some large dumbbell eyes to get the fly down quickly. When we're fishing out of the boat, we are throwing a lot of casts. So we need a fly that is aerodynamic and flies through the air, doesn't pick up a lot of water, but also has some weight to it so that it'll sink quickly underneath the structure, whether it's a log jam or a drop off on a shelf or just in the rocks on the bank. And we did, I did fish some lighter flies. When you fish lower in the systems, you're typically fishing bigger water, and when you're fishing higher in the systems, you're fishing smaller, more clear water, and that's when maybe you back off your weight a little bit. It is important to secure your eyes with the figure 8 method and secure those eyes very well so they don't spin. That's one of the true signs of a fly that was tied too quickly or by somebody who didn't quite know what they were doing, the eyes spinning, and that's not great for hooking fish. So I use a little head cement, as you notice there, and I always use head cement every step of the way for Dorado hooks, Dorado flies. It'll really improve your durability. Step 2 is we're going to develop the tail and body of the fly. I prefer the Enrico Puglisi fibers to develop the tail and most of the body, and then we'll be using some bucktail as well. What's nice about the Enrico Puglisi fiber is it just doesn't pick up water or hold water. So I'll take a nice little chunk, not too much, probably about 25 strands in there, and I'll lay it across the back of the hook. And this will be the start of our tail. And I'll use the pinch method where I pinch, pull down, pick up, pinch, pull down. And that ensures everything stays on the top or shank of the hook. And I'll lay that across the back and trim the excess. Tie it down and come back to the very back of the hook. And now I will tie in some of the yellow bucktail, and I like to grab a piece where it's a little longer, which is up towards the tip of the tail, and then make sure that I cut all the way down at the base of the hide to make that as long as possible. Hold the tips and pull out the guard hairs, as you should do every step along the way with any time you're using bucktail. And now I just have nice long pieces, and I'll put this on the back, and then I'll let it kind of fall around the hook of the shank so it creates more body all the way around the fly, not just on the top. I'm not going to pull too tight yet. I kind of want to get the fly tied in, or the materials tied in, before I flare it, and then I can come in here and pull tight, and it'll give it a little flare, which is nice. And then I'll come in here and cut off the excess. And then tie those tag ends in nice and tightly. And then a little further back, I'll take bucktail again, but more in a black tone. You can use pretty much a wide variety of colors for your golden Dorado flies. Anything from orange and black, purple and black, red and black. It always seems to have black in it, so that's the main underlying color, and then substitute a lot of other colors in there to provide different hues. And you'll find that one day was an orange day and one day was a purple and black, but it always seemed to have black in it. So here you can see we start developing our body. And now I'm going to go back to the EP fibers and put in this purple and bluish, black kind of combo of colors. And now I'm going to start to build the body up on the fly so I get more body, which appears more like the sabalo, which is the main bait fish that the Dorado feed on. So I want to create a tall or a wide profile on these flies. And I don't want to do it with too much bulk or heavy materials, otherwise the fly just gets too heavy. So I've tied in the first, you can see we're getting some bulk, and then I'll take the front end and I'll tie that in as well. And that'll double my profile pretty much. And then I take it and I'll slowly cut and kind of create that tapered effect. So here you can see I'm getting some quality bulk to this fly. And then I want to create some lateral lines on the fish to imitate either the striations of the fish or like the paw marks, kind of like you'd see on a little rainbow trout. Tie those on either side. Again, I don't put two pieces on, I just put one with the idea that once a Dorado gets this fly in its mouth, that's pretty much it for the fly. You know, sometimes you'll catch a couple fish on one fly, but for the most part it's a put on a new fly, and I would take the flies back at the end of the day and actually rebuild about 80% of them. So don't throw your flies out just because you've caught a fish on it. And now the last step, in step number 2, is I'll put a little bit of flash across the top. And that kind of imitates maybe some of the scales glistening on the top. And only about 4 to 5 pieces across the top. And that's the end of step 2. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to put a little head cement around the eye of the hook. That's going to, or the eyes of the hook, that's going to secure the eyes, as well as provide a strong foundation for the deer hair that we're going to spin around the hook shank for the next step. So we're going to take a sizable chunk of black deer hair and trim it close to the hide. Pull out all the guard hairs as we've previously done. And this bulk is what really pushes a lot of water and activates the fish's lateral lines and its predatory instinct. So I'm going to do 2 to 3 really loose wraps around the elk hair and then pull tight. And what that does is it spins their hair around the hook shank, as you can see. And that creates that nice collar and then gives us the spun hair, which we can trim to create the bulk of the head. So here I'm just moving my thread forward closer to the eyes of the hook, which secures the fibers into that glue and makes it a lot more durable. And then I'll do one more chunk up front, again with the black deer hair. This time I'm not going to take out such a big chunk because we're getting close to the eye of the hook, and you never want to crowd the eye. You got to be able to use your fly. Pull the guard hairs out once again. Hold it on top. 2 to 3 real loose wraps and pull tight and let it spin. Again, running the thread forward to the eye of the hook, cinching that material down. And then I'll push back here and give it a good tug so that I can get my thread to the head of the hook, to the head of the eye, right behind the eye, and that'll hold all those fibers back. And then I'll use my whip finish to kind of finish the fly off. I usually do 2, 1, 2, and I'll use crazy glue usually to secure that at the end. Trim that, then I'll fluff it all forward. This is the fun part. This is where you become a sculptor. And I will spin the vise and start trimming the fly, which creates the bulk of the head. And I try to go with just kind of a real cylindrical cone to start. Just a real general shape. And as you can see, I'm leaving the collar here. I'm not trimming all the way back. I'm leaving the tips exposed, which pushes a lot of water and creates that push in the water column. Now, I'll kind of get into the subtle trimming after I've done just a basic shape of a can almost. I'll go around the eye of the hook and kind of taper the front of it. So I'm kind of resting my scissors on the eye and then going right back there. And then I'm going to go pretty hard underneath. And the reason is I don't want these fibers to prevent the hook from getting into the fish's jaw and setting. So I trim those up pretty high. So I've got a good hook gap in there, as you can see. That's it. Pretty basic, really easy, really fast. I, again, suggest that you use all different colors, you know, orange and black, red and black, yellow and black. Use different materials and have a lot of fun with this because it's a fun fly to tie. Just remember to cut out all the unnecessary steps so you can do it quickly because you're going to need a lot of them. Okay, as you can see here, we're all finished with our fly. We've trimmed it. I've done a little extra trimming. You can see the eyes, which is always good. And it's got lots of bulk and a collar to push lots of water. We also experimented, and a lot of people do the two-tone fly. So they're spinning hair on the top and then putting a different color on the bottom and spinning it down there, but not letting the material go all the way around the hook, keeping them separate. And I think that's a good look too. Maybe clearer water, dirtier water. Obviously this one's a lot easier to tie. All right, thanks.